Alright, today we're going to get this motor, tranny, and transfer case. I got to get the hood pulled. I'm going to crawl underneath, mark a few things that I know need adjustment while all this is out, and then we're going to get this front end wrapped up because I need to get the suspension work done. All the parts finally came in. We got pretty much all the metal I'll need. I'm not sure. I know there's going to be a lot of cutting and grinding on the rear end, but that's just life. Brake lines, they're going to get shocks coming so I can get everything mounted properly. So I'm just going to get set up. I'm going to get all this pulled, get the hood off, get everything ready, and we're going to get it in the front end. Alright, now that I got that motor tranny and transfer case out, I'm going to start priming. Just use white primer. I got the cross member down here. I'm going to get it painted. Well, I'm going to get it primed and then painted. There's a few other parts. I'm going to get some of those other parts that we had. I screwed up and painted some of the frame on the 4Runner, and now I got to grind all that off so I can get the shock hoops mounted. But I'm gonna get the rear spring mounts done today. I'm gonna get my measurement. We're just gonna kind of mock this up like that. Hard for you to see. I'm gonna mock it up with those in between, get my measurement in between there, and then get my pipe that I'm gonna weld in the frame cut down. So I'm gonna get busy doing this, put a little primer on it, let the shop air out so I don't suffocate, and then I got all thread to do my alignment. I gotta find nuts for it. I know there's different ways to do it, but this way you can use the all thread, tighten, put it through, put nuts on this, and you can really move this and get it all adjusted absolutely perfect, since I know this 4Runner is going to live on the freeway for, well, at least the paved roads for most of its life. So I'm going to pay extra attention to getting that squared up. So I'm gonna get this painted, and then we'll get into getting the front end back together. I hope I can wrap this up in one day. I doubt it, but we'll see. Get our guesstimation here. Let's go with 3.5. Use anything nice and squarish, wrap it around it. It'll get close enough. All right, let me get that cut out and start cutting the frame. Well, I got the front end pieces in. This is what I use that piece of all thread for. That way I know it's squared up. You can see the other side over there. This works really nice. Basically what I do from here is I just start taking measurements, making sure everything's square. I measure from points to even body points. Sometimes these body points are perfect, sometimes they're not, but a lot of times I go from like body square, but this is really what I'm worried about, is where these leaf springs are at. So I'm gonna measure from here to here on both sides. I'm gonna make sure everything's square. I'm gonna do a cross measurement on both sides also. So from the other side, I'll measure from like a point to over there on the other piece. So I'm going to get that measurement done now. That is 48.5. So it's a little bit off. So in order to pull that into square, I'm going to have to move the passenger side in just a tiny bit. Get a measurement here, 41.25. The other side. So this side here. Alright. Alright, I'll have to do a little bit of adjustment. The passenger side needs to be moved back. Well, the overall measurement's 1/4 inch, so probably 1/8 of an inch, then remeasure. So I'm gonna get my die grinder out, and I'm gonna get that moved, and then it should be pretty square. We'll check square one more time. I went ahead and got that squared up. Made a mess, but that's fine. I already got it tack welded. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all tore back apart and then weld those up. I gotta give it some time to cool because I can't reassemble it while it's still boiling hot. I'll melt those bushings. So once that's done, I squirt a little paint on it and then get it back together, and then I'm gonna get the shock mounts ready. I need to run out back, see if I can find some sort of shock to put in this place. So when I get back, hopefully we're doing shock hoops, because then we can move on to brake lines, get this front end wrapped up, I think. Oh, and I do still have to put some 90 weight in the front end. So a few things to finish that up, because I want to get this pulled out and turn around and pull back in so I can get the rear end tore apart. So I'm kind of on a mission. I'll be back. Alright, something else I forgot. I don't have long enough bolts for the top. I went yesterday and forgot it was Sunday. So today, being Monday, the place should be open. So before I can assemble that, I need to go find the correct bolts. They won't be greasable, so I may have to do my own drilling. So that's no big deal, but I definitely need to go get bolts. So that'll give me time for this to cool down while I'm searching for the right size bolts. Got the 4Runner back on its wheels, or at least the front ones. So without the motor, tranny, transfer case, anything, so far that's going to be the ride height, but once you put weight back in that thing, it's going to squat the front down. So very little weight. Very little weight, the front suspension moves really nice, so pretty happy with that. I needed these tires on so I can get the shock hoops. Let me get a light on here. So I can get the shock hoops mounted. These are rear shocks off a full-size Chevy I had out back, or have out back. They had to be upside down just because of the way this space here is. So I went ahead and cleaned these shock hoops up. Got the braces cleaned up good enough. Bolts. Get the camera set up and I'll show you what my idea is here a little bit. Yeah, I think you guys can see that all right. So with the tire in here, you know what your spacing is. And I need to get these shock hoops before brake lines, mainly because that way I can work around. They'll work around pretty much anything on the brake lines. Ooh, that shock is not good. Come on. The reason I wanted a shock back on here is to make sure that that upper mount and the lower mount are square when I weld this in place. And this doesn't look like it's fun because the shock is not going to hold where I want it, but it's going to be right about there. And then weld that on there really good and get those braces put on. But I need to figure out a way to hold this in place, and I got to clean this paint up because, like I said before, I wasn't really thinking about it. So I'm going to get this all wire brushed off and get the welder set up, and I'm just going to get this about where I think it's going to set properly, and then it'd be nice to get a little bit taller shock in here, probably right in that area, and then that makes everything nice and square. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything done, and not done. I'm going to go ahead and get the paint wire brush back off and the welder set up, and then we'll get this tacked into place, and then we'll worry about the bracing bars right after that. But I got to prep this frame real quick, so I'll be back. All right, we're going for something like that. It's fairly straight. This is really true and in line here. These little braces, they are made to go in, I don't know, something like that. They're just basically to hold this, because these tubes are not the strongest steel. They're not all that thick. Bad part is on this side we have that. I tend to cut these down a little bit, and I try and come in from the back to brace them, and if you don't cut them down, they just don't fit. You can probably brace them any way you want, but there's no real good way for this one, since this steering is going to be in the way. It's hard to see that down there, and plus we already know that this clearance through here is super tight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little time and fit it better, because I already know that this brace should go probably more towards the back. I'll put a little kick to it, but more than likely it's just going to be a smaller brace. I may just use this one, just cut a 45 at each side, put that in there just a little bit below that steering shaft. So I'm going to go ahead and try and get that done before it gets too late. All right, I got both sides done. That's a finished product, not cleaned up yet. And it's hard to see. It's not as good, not much better, but it's done. When it has measured all that out, also I still need to clean it up and get it painted, and then we're gonna get brake lines done. But it's getting late. You can tell it's super dark outside, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up for the night. I got work in the morning, and when I come back, we're gonna do brake lines and get this thing set, turned around. So I'll be back. Well, I got everything painted. Looks pretty good down there. So I'm gonna get these brake lines all wrapped up now. So I did keep the factory little mounts, but I need to get a little tab welded on them because I'm just gonna bolt these to the frame. So I need to find some metal down here. I don't need a big tab. I'm thinking something like that. I can put a little angle to it. I think that might work. So my thought is, so the new lines, they'll come down into this factory mount here. They should sit, let's see. Yeah, so they sit down in there good. And I'm thinking I want something back in this area, kind of out of the way. I don't think if the tire turns, I think the tire is going to hit back in here. I think if I'm able to, yeah, I think back here, keep it away from steering. I could always loop it the other way, I guess. I don't know. I think I like that better, kind of in this area. That'll give it plenty of travel. A little burr there. It didn't get ground off good enough, but so what I need to be able to do is stick that in that area. I might cut that weird kick out of there and square it up maybe. I need it kind of like, well, maybe not. Maybe like that'll work good. So I'm going to get 2 of these fabbed up. Once I get these fabbed up, I'm going to drill a hole and then put a thread insert in there, and then just try and get these brakes done. I'm going to put the small tires back on it because I know I'm not getting it out of this garage with the big tires on them. I'm still kind of hoping I can get it out with the small tires. So I'm going to get these fabbed up and then I'll bring the camera back out. Got that all fabbed up. Here's one of them. Just basically extended it a little bit and then just flapper wheeled it. Then just flapper wheeled it down. I'm gonna rib nut this in, just because I think it'll be just a good option. Then I got to get everything painted, so I'm gonna let that dry up. Let's get this stuff set in there. Went ahead and prepped everything too, so nice and fresh. Paint's all dirty again. Okay. I have not used my rib nut tool yet. I bought it a while ago, thinking I was going to use it more. Haven't used it yet, so this is my, I guess this is my first time. Maybe I got a little aggressive. No, that should hold. I don't know what happened. All right, let's do the other side. Let's do this one. Bolt her down. So I think by the time it's all said and done, it's going to look really good. It'll be something like that. Then all I have is a little line to run from here to here, and then the new soft line from here down to there. So I'm going to go ahead and get these painted and get them dried up. That way I can get all this together, and then I'll get all the lines made, get the tires on it, and get it out of the garage so I can do a good deep clean before we spin it around and cut the rear end off it. So I'm going to get them painted and I'll be back. All right, brake lines are done. That's this side's finished product. This should stay out of the way, and once a shock is in here, this can always be, I don't know, zip tied or something. I do want to get these tires on here, but what I'm running into is this center is just a tiny bit too tight. So I think I'm gonna put this wheel in my little grinder here, see if I can get that center of these two cleaned up enough to be able to go over this hub. It's not much. I might clean the hub up a little bit too. I mean, it slides on kinda, so I'm just gonna clean up a little bit here and there. Here's the other side. That's what I did. I just attached it, short brake line. I think it looks good. We're not going to bleed any of this system, mainly because I already know that these front brakes are going to get replaced and stuff. This is just for mock-up purposes. The lines will stay, but I don't want to bleed a bunch of fluid through here just to let it drain out when I'm putting new stuff on. So I want to get the tires on. I'm going to do some adjustment of the steering in the front, not much because there's no motor, no weight in it, because that weight will it'll affect it a little bit, not very much. Mainly it'll affect the straightness of the steering wheel. So but I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get these just a little bit cleaned up, just enough to get the small tires on that. If I have to use the big tires, I'm afraid I might almost have to flatten them to get it out of here. It might clear, but I need these little tires on it anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done, get it fit, and then I'll bring the camera back out when it's setting down on the ground, and we're gonna get this out of here. So I got them tires to fit. It really didn't take much. I think it was just like a little burr or something, but usually when you're taking these apart, these tend to get little lumps and ridges, but they fit good. This thing looks a little ridiculous right now, but that's temporary. So that's gonna be it for this this video. Appreciate everybody and their good comments and supportive, and it's just really nice to hear. So next video, we're gonna get the whole rear end cut off this thing and try and get that rear end wrapped up as quick as we can, because once this transmission comes back from rebuild, we only have a few more things to really button up. I think we're making good progress. The suspension's been taking the longest, so yeah, let's hope that the transmission comes back quick. So thanks for watching.